Oh, God. Put her back in! Put her back in! Please tell me there's a Black Queen one. Let's go. Let's... Yeah, when I envisioned female dwarves in Deep Rock, this is what I was thinking, dude. Deep Rock Galactic's new spin-off Rogue Core just released in early access, and as you could probably tell from the intro clip and the title of this video, it's a massive disappointment. Over the past 6 years, I've played a lot of video games that somehow managed to invent new problems I've never seen before. Things that, you know, if you had any amount of common sense, you probably wouldn't implement into your game. This is a co-op roguelite shooter where all 4 players have to share the same pool of weapons and upgrades. And the game just randomly selects who gets to go first and pick something. So again, anyone who's ever had any experience with online randoms in their life is gonna know people are just gonna pick whatever they want. They don't care what your build is, what perks you picked before. They're gonna grab whatever the best stuff is immediately. Why would they care about you? But that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to flaws in this game. It somehow manages to screw up very basic things that Deep Rock Galactic got right. Whether it's the gunplay, the progression systems, completely gutting exploration, adding a time limit for no conceivable reason. Even one of the core appeals of this game, you know, mining, because we're playing as dwarves. Most of the depth and general appeal of those systems have been removed, and it feels more like a chore now. And of course, we need to address the elephant in the room. There are 2 female dwarves in the game now, and yes, they're class locked, so if you want to play those 2 classes, you have to play as a disgustingly hideous abomination. And I love how one of them is just an even uglier version of Aloy from the Horizon series. The funny thing about this is not another case of synth shitting on every new game. No, I played 170 hours of Deep Rock Galactic. I think it's a great co-op game. Yes, it's flawed. Yes, I think a lot of the updates made the game worse. Not to mention adding bafflingly bad new side objectives and enemies like fucking rock pox. Not even gonna get into that. I still think Deep Rock is a pretty fun game to play with your friends, and I really enjoyed it. So I came into this wanting to like the game. This was not just, oh, I want to make another dunking on woke slop video for easy clicks. No, I wanted Rogue Core to be good. I need to make that clear. And I'm far from the only one who thinks that it's half-baked, to put it lightly. The Steam review with the most likes is from a player with 3,000 hours in Deep Rock, and a mod creator, and has also made videos on the game. So obviously a super fan, exactly the type of person who Rogue Core should appeal to. And yet he completely dismantled this game. I have to agree with basically all of his criticisms. When I streamed this game on launch day, it actually had overall mixed reviews on Steam, and somehow overnight it's at mostly positive. I don't know if this is another situation where Steam deleted a bunch of political reviews like they did with Slay the Spire 2, since people were complaining about Anita Sarkeesian being in the credits, or if it was flooded with bot positive reviews, or maybe just Redditors positive review bombing, as they're known to do. But in any case, I do find that highly suspicious. And I'm sure this video will get flooded with plenty of people who are going to claim, well, the game's still in early access, so that means you're not allowed to critique it or say that it's going to be dog shit no matter what. But I truly believe that this game is rotten to the core. I don't think any amount of updates would make this nearly as good as Deep Rock Galactic. So yeah, as you'd expect, this is just an impressions review. Since the game's in early access, it doesn't really deserve a really in-depth analysis. I'm sure many of these complaints will change as the game gets more updates, but it also doesn't invalidate any of these complaints. There's plenty of reasons to not try this out. Actually, one of the major ones I didn't even mention, this is $30 for a glorified asset flip. So no matter what you take away from this review, even if you disagree with most of my complaints, I would say this is not worth the price tag, considering it basically only has one game mode, that being deep dives from main Deep Rock. Yeah, so every single mission takes like 45 fucking minutes. Anyway, before I ramble on for another 5 minutes, let's just get into the main critiques I have for this game. So unlike my normal reviews, I'll actually start with the positives, because I don't think it's a very long list, and I do want to give this game some credit where it's due, I suppose. Because it's not a bad game, but it's only not a bad game because all of its good elements were just copy-pasted from Deep Rock Galactic. So first off, I'll say the shooting is still good. This is one of Deep Rock's strongest elements. elements. It just feels good to shoot enemies. The weapon selection is decent, but there's definitely less variety here than the main game, which I find ironic because it borrowed probably 75% of the guns from Deep Rock Galactic. If you spend a lot of time playing the game, you're going to recognize this arsenal. Now, I only played the game about 5 hours before I got sick of it, but in that time, I didn't see any of Driller's primaries. I don't know if I just got really unlucky or maybe that's on purpose, but his weapons feel like a pretty glaring omission that could have added a bit of spice to the game, a little bit more variety in play styles. Maybe it would have been broken with certain class combinations or something, but I really would have liked to play around with the flamethrower at least. A lot of the new guns just feel like tweaks on other existing guns. Like there's an energy revolver now that just shoots all of its shots in a rapid burst, and so you have to reload every 2 seconds, which was not fun. I don't want to get into the negatives ahead of time, but one of my issues with the game is the ammo economy for sure. The fact that ammo is more out of your control than Deep Rock, since you just pick them up from fixed spawns instead of getting nitra, adds a layer of annoyance to things. I mean, you can certainly grief your partners in the main game of Deep Rock by stealing ammo from them, but I think it's even worse in this game, though that could just be because the game just came out. There's going to be a lot of scrubs who either only played Deep Rock years ago, or maybe they're completely new to this game, so obviously they're not going to be very good team players at first. But there were multiple times where people stole all of the ammo and I had nothing left, and then what the fuck am I supposed to do? As for the other new guns, there's a magnetic rifle, which is just a slower shooting assault rifle with less accuracy. There was a submachine gun that was extremely inaccurate and had a crazy amount of recoil, not fun to use. But when you remove the original progression system, because now we're in a roguelite, so the only gun upgrades you get are through these toolboxes that you have to collect on each floor, and then you can choose whether or not you want to upgrade an existing gun, get a new gun, or upgrade your class's special ability, which is where I'm going to transition in the next part. Let's talk about the classes. So in Deep Rock, a class was usually defined by your tools, right? So the scout could shoot flares and he had a grapple gun. The engineer had turrets and the platform gun, etc., etc. Well, in this game, they turned it into a hero shooter. And there's now 5 classes, which is a baffling choice given that you can only pick 4 characters to go into each mission. And you've now got like hero abilities on each character. It's closer to something like Borderlands than it is Overwatch, but there are literal abilities ripped from Overwatch, like Retcon, one of the 2 new female dwarves. She can literally do the rewind time thing, and it works exactly like it does in Overwatch. Oh yeah, and she has Void Rage as an ability, by the way. Yes, Void Rage! I'm mad! He left the toilet seat up! There's a spoon in the sink! Just put it in the dishwasher. And it actually unironically gives her a rage boost. Awesome. No wokeness in this game, though. Don't worry about it. There's like a falconer character that has a robot bird that can attack people. I'll be honest, that one didn't leave much of an impression on me either. It's notable that you play as her during the tutorial, so not only are there 2 female dwarves, but you're forced to play one during the tutorial, and the other one is literally named Retcon. Now, yes, this is the part where Redder's like, actually, she's named after her ability. Get it? Because she rewinds time. Retconning, yeah, I get it. Clearly, your media literacy license is expired. But are you not seeing the very obvious subtext here? That there were no female dwarves in the first game. I'm not saying they didn't exist in-universe, but realistically, no one actually gives a fuck about Deep Rock's lore. And so, even though it is a very Reddit-coded game, don't get me wrong, I know it completely. It's a Redditors game made by Redditors. I understand that. But still, it was a game about playing with the boys. Everyone is a dude, and you go on your goofy dwarf adventure, getting horribly killed by bugs. That was the tone of the game. It was kind of lighthearted, but dark in the background. Now the new game is like, here's women, shove the women in your face, you have to play as the woman, you don't have a choice. Oh, and she's hideously disgusting and a not so subtle self-insert of the trans developers. Yeah, I get it. I'm tired of this shit. There is no such thing as men's media anymore. Women will be included in everything, but it sure as hell doesn't work the other way around. Women are allowed to have their own spaces, but no, men cannot have men's spaces. Probably because if we did have them, we wouldn't be living in Clown World right now, to put it lightly. Anyway, to get back to the review, which I'm totally enthusiastic about, I think the class selection does add, you know, some decent different play styles. The Guardian was a cool tank character. When I got my build to come together, I felt immortal. I had the Gunner's shield. He has an ability that regenerates armor, which has replaced shielding in this game, which is a very strange choice. Yes, there's no more regen of any kind, except you can regen a bit of health when you're super low. Now you just basically have 2 health bars. I have no idea why they got rid of shielding. Makes no sense. But also he can repel melee enemies away, so that was good. Another class that people were saying apparently in the closed alpha is by far the best one is the Slicer. He has a main ability where he slashes through the air with a big sword, does a shit ton of damage, and one of his side abilities allows him to reflect all projectiles in a shield around him. So for some reason, they gave the DPS class arguably the best shield ability. I can see why everyone thinks this guy's the best. That is blatantly unbalanced. So yeah, I think conceptually the classes are cool, but because the classes are strong without any initial investment, it means the gun arsenal and the tools have to suffer as a result. I did decide to play one more match off stream to see if maybe without the pressure of live streaming, I would have a bit more fun with the game, maybe notice a few more critiques or positives. And I also gave one of the Depth 2 missions a try, which I guess would be the equivalent of Hazard 2, 3, 4, whatever, the higher difficulties. It also took place in a different biome and had a different boss at the end. And I have to say, I was having a little bit more fun with the game because I was with a competent group of randoms who had clearly played Deep Rock Galactic for a while. And yeah, when you play the game with a decent team, it can be fun for sure. Again, for all the same reasons Deep Rock Galactic is fun, I don't think the character classes really added much to the experience. I also got to try out another one of the new guns that was like a force field shooter, kind of like a Ratchet and Clank gun, so I actually liked that one quite a bit. It also didn't do any friendly fire damage, so that was interesting. This second biome also had a lot more verticality in the level design than the first one, which I really think they should have started with this one, or at least made all the biomes have a lot of verticality, because that first one just did not feel like Deep Rock. It was lacking a fundamental part of the gameplay loop that made it interesting. So my complaint later in the video is going to make less sense, but it's still a legitimate complaint I had at the time. So yeah, I guess deep down I do kind of see the potential for this game. But even in that last match, there were all the same problems I'm going to name in the second half of this video. But I guess I will say I did have some fun with the game. This is definitely one of my more negative reviews for a game I don't think is complete shit. But it's just because there's so many bafflingly bad decisions that were made here, as you'll see when we go into the next section. So let's pretty much get to the negatives. I don't even know where to begin here. I already talked about the female dwarves, so I won't bring that up again. I think the main thing is that this game just has no fucking replayability. I just talked about Saros, another roguelite that had minimal replayability, and here we go again. So I get that people are going to say, how the hell does this not have replayability when it has all these randomized elements, whether it's, you know, your weapons, your tools, the perks, enemy variety, different side objectives on every floor. Again, on the surface, it does appear like this game has some decent amount of content. Not $30 worth of content, to be clear. I mean, it's probably got like a quarter the amount of real content compared to Deep Rock Galactic, which I know people defend because this is early access and Deep Rock has had years and years of updates. But this is the same price as Deep Rock back when it came out for, again, a tiny fraction of the content. You can get Deep Rock on sale for like $8. This is way overpriced for being a glorified asset flip. So if you had to choose between the two, you're sure as hell gonna buy Deep Rock and not Rogue Core. But to get into why this game doesn't have replayability, I think it's pretty simple. One, there's only one fucking game mode, and it's deep dives. Can you imagine if in Deep Rock Galactic, the only game mode was 45 minutes long, and if you lose, you basically got nothing out of it? That is a fundamental game flaw right up front that I don't know how the fuck this game got past the initial pre-production with a concept that bad for a co-op game. It just makes no sense. I understand that Left 4 Dead 2 is arguably the most popular co-op shooter of all time, and people often will play through a whole campaign, and that can be over an hour. But you don't have to. And I also understand that similar games in this genre, like Risk of Rain 2, you could hypothetically die 30 minutes into a run and really get nothing out of it, but I think it's a little bit different in this case, maybe because of all of the other negatives as well. If you quit or lose before you beat it, that's the whole time wasted. Yes, you get a little bit of EXP and you can unlock some perks or whatever, but the perk system in this game is about as bad as it is in Deep Rock. Deep Rock has a lot of good progression systems, but the perks were not one of them. I'm not going to go into detail here, but in Deep Rock, basically you had a couple passives and a couple actives you could equip, and you basically just played the game a lot to unlock those things. It's similar in this one. There's only a certain amount of these perks you can equip at a time, so after you get all of the perks for your ideal character builds, what else is there even to unlock? In Deep Rock, there were all sorts of weapon upgrades you could switch between. In the end game, there were overclocks. Of course, you needed a shit ton of currency and various different mining materials to get said upgrades. So there was a real reason to play at least 100 hours of the game before you'd seen basically everything. With this game, again, I realize it's in early access, so there'll be more content later. But as of right now, the main form of progression is just unlocking these perks because you get randomized guns on every run. There's not very many permanent upgrades to keep you playing, especially once you get bored of the only game mode. A lot of the unlockables are just fucking cosmetics, and given how disgustingly ugly, at least the female dwarves are, why would I give a shit about the cosmetics? Oh, and for those of you wondering if you can attach a beard to the female dwarves, yes, you can. Which, if they're gonna go all the way with that shit, why don't they just make the female dwarves look identical to the male dwarves? At least that might have been a funny joke. No, they have to be these disgusting DEI characters. And yes, Ghost Ship Games is owned by Embracer Group. You know, the shadowy, evil investment firm that purchased a bunch of game studios just to shut them down, including the Deus Ex developer. Oh, and it just so happens that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 was full of woke slop after they bought Warhorse, even though Daniel Vavra claims that had nothing to do with it. Yeah, is it any shock that Rogue Core has this crap in it? But anyway, to get back to the subject of replayability, I think the number one problem, and I am shocked I haven't heard anyone else bring this up, is that every 5 minutes, the game comes to a complete halt for 2 to 3 minutes minimum as the various players vote on weapons and perks. And this starts from the very beginning of each run. As you and your 3 randoms, or hopefully your 3 friends, because that's the only way I could see this game being legitimately enjoyable, is if you play it with friends you know who will not backstab you for the meme. But yeah, at the beginning of every run, everyone gets to pick a weapon and a support tool, right? Now, most of the weapons in Deep Rock are decently fun to use, as I said before, even though some of them are significantly less useful in Rogue Core, like the M1000, basically the Garand. Great weapon in the main game. In Rogue Core, it's fucking dog shit, mainly because these enemies love to move their weak spots around. They just move in a very strange, unpredictable way compared to the Glyphids. That just makes them inherently less fun to shoot. As for the support tools, since you only get to pick one each, someone has to take one for the team and pick the flare gun. These caves are not as dark as they are in Deep Rock, but you still want someone to grab the flare gun just so you can better see the silhouettes of these core spawn guys. I don't know, they're dark colored, unlike the Glyphids, so they don't really stand out in the environment so well. So when you take the flare gun, that's significantly less fun than you could be having with the drills or the platform gun, right? And of course, then immediately after this, you all have to vote on a grenade as well in a separate voting queue. I don't know why it's not part of the same one, but yes, you have to stand around another object. And then when you finally get into the game, the main gimmick here with the resources is that you collect something called Expedite instead of Nitra or Gold. And when you deposit Expedite in your floating drone, then you unlock perks. Now, to get a perk, all 4 players have to stand directly around the fucking thing. And unfortunately, most of the players are stupid as hell. I was pinging this thing for a straight minute, being as annoying as humanly possible, and there's still one player who's 200 meters away just jerking off in the corner by himself. Why? What the hell could you possibly be doing? The other 3 players are here, We need the perk. He is sabotaging the game for the rest of us, especially because there is a time limit. So finally, everyone gathers around the machine. They grab their perks. Here's the thing though, over the course of a run, you can get more than 10 perks easily if you find all the expedite or expedite, whatever. I can't even remember what it's even called at this point. So yes, it's gonna be a common strategy to wait until you probably have like 3 perks before you bother wasting the time standing around this thing. But what if you just want every single perk, especially because one of the perks is to skip a perk to get a health refill and some extra max health. What if you need the health right now or you're gonna die? And that's another problem with this. When players die and someone goes to the next floor, oh my god, what the fuck were they thinking? So you'll remember probably in a Deep Rock deep dive, right? 3 out of 4 players go down, 1 guy survives, and then everyone's just back up on the next floor, as it should be. Well, in Rogue Core, if this happens at the start of the next floor, the other 3 players are all gooed up in pods for some reason, and you need to shoot these nodes to get them down. Okay, sounds easy enough. But again, anyone who's played Deep Rock knows a lot of times when you start a new floor, there's an entire wave of enemies waiting for you. And so this happened twice in just 5 hours of play. I was the only guy on the fucking elevator because my teammates are just complete idiots. And so I go to revive them at the start of the next floor, get swarmed with enemies immediately, and then boom, it's over, we're all dead. How is that fun for anyone? And of course, to finally tie into what I brought up during the intro, the fucking voting system around perks and weapons in this game, this is absolutely ridiculous. This was designed by people who have never played a video game with people outside of their friend group before. There is no way in hell that anyone who is not part of your little Redditor echo chamber hug box thought this was a good idea. There is absolutely zero incentive to not fuck over everyone else in the group and just grab whatever perk you want. And that's exactly what people are going to do. It's not like you can even see what your companion's perks are in the first place. The most they can do is just ping what upgrade they want. And guess what? People are going to ignore you and just take it anyway. The player order is picked at random, so you could get lucky and go first and grab the thing you need, or you could go last and there's nothing decent left to pick because the perk selection is dog shit as well. Seriously, this is some of the worst progression I've seen in a roguelike game. An epic upgrade is like 7% higher critical hit chance. Are you fucking serious? So many of the perks are underwhelming. Not going to go into detail here because this video ended up being longer than I would have wanted it to be anyway. And I didn't even go into all of the normal ways your teammates can screw you over, like in the base game of Deep Rock. Say, for example, someone decides to run ahead because he's really bored, gets grabbed by a cave leech, dies horribly, and then someone else wanders into the room, gets killed by the same cave leech, and then your moderator, who saw everything that happened, also somehow gets killed by the same cave leech, and the 4th guy has to rescue all of us. Oh wait, I guess that was my fault. But the point is, it's so easy to make people mad. Another one, people stealing the fucking ammo, dude. There's 4 players, there's 4 ammo refills in an ammo crate, so why the hell would you take more than one, you asshole? Oh, and on top of that, you gotta add friendly fire. They still got friendly fire in this. I haven't played a cooperative game where I've hated my teammates this much since Dragon Ball The Breakers, which if you've never seen one of my streams, you'll have no idea what that means. But let's just say I was extremely angry at my teammates, and while a lot of it is their fault for being complete morons and being generally shit, I would say 75% of it isn't even their fucking fault because this game was designed so incompetently. It's unreal, man. This game is genuinely proof why communism will never work. People will take advantage of each other at every single opportunity. And again, this is not news to any real man in the world. Only a woman or someone who has chemically castrated themselves could possibly delude themselves into thinking a system like this could work. So yeah, the voting system's gotta go, period. There is no way in hell this survives in the game till 1.0 unless they want it to be dead as fuck whenever it eventually releases. And that kind of just ties into the broader problem of this game, that it is not casual. I don't know how the hell they could have a game like Deep Rock Galactic, which is a chill-ass time with your buddies. Yes, you could play on Hazard 5. Yes, you can play with a bunch of mods that make the game insanely hard. If you want, that is your choice. but these are the starting missions in Rogue Core, are a legitimate challenge to complete. Why is there no, like, baby difficulty mode for all of the mouth breathers who play this co-op slop? I wouldn't even complain about it. I don't even think it's bad necessarily if a game is easy as long as it's fun. And I don't think this is like a skill issue thing. Genuinely, you can just watch my footage and see how many times I was the last survivor. So I'm certainly not bad at the game. I'm not a god at the game either, because I just play Deep Rock for fun, and I would play Rogue Core just for fun as well if it was more fun than it is. I doubt I'm going to play much more of this game, if at all, after this video comes out, which I've been dodging this complaint for a while now for no conceivable reason. I'm building it up to be more of a thing than it really is, but there is a soft time limit. Why the fuck is there a time limit? My webcam is blocking it in a lot of my footage here, but there is a meter that fills up on each floor. Once it maxes out, you basically just get hit with super waves of enemies until you lose. And this timer is not that generous, dude. I'm not gonna say you have to bum rush through every floor, but given that Deep Rock Galactic was a game about exploration, going into this game, you'd think it'd be similar, that you'd want to complete every objective on every floor so you can get the best upgrades to have the best chance of winning. Well, if you do that, the meter's gonna fill to full and you're gonna die. I guess it's fun for the ultra try-hard content creators who are shills who only give positive feedback to Ghost Ship. But for anyone else who's a fucking human, this shit sucks. I mean, genuinely, this sucks. Did this have any playtesting at all? Why are you asking for this much teamwork and this much coordination in a chill-ass dwarf mining game where you just shoot bugs? And for the sake of time, I'm not gonna ramble about, like, enemy variety for too long, but let's just say these enemies are not nearly as fun to shoot as the Glyphids. The vast majority of the enemies are these creepers, which are kind of like monkey alien mothersucks. And they just move in this weird, kind of unpredictable pattern. It doesn't even really look natural, and I don't mean in a creepy way, I mean in like a jank way. Compared to the Glyphids, who move very predictably, but they swarm in mass, and there's so many different types of them, so you have to employ different strategies to defeat them. Someone could make a really long video essay on how good the encounter design and like the AI director is for Deep Rock, at least before they added in a bunch of cancerous dog shit enemies in later updates. And given that this is just supposed to be an impressions video, I'm not going to really go into too much detail, but let's just say the enemy types in Rogue Core are so much more generic in their function. You got your standard grunts, you got your swarmers who die in one bullet, you got your armored dudes who kind of just block and stand still. You got these big-ass tower guys who shoot ranged shots who are incredibly annoying and do really high damage for no reason. I especially hate these guys because they seem to bob around their heads more than any other enemy, which was really infuriating when I was trying to shoot the weak spot with the M1000. And that's pretty much it off the top of my head. I think there's a couple more enemy types, but those are the only ones that stood out from the crowd. That's a whole other subject I could go into, how the aesthetic is much weaker than Deep Rock. This game just looks worse than a game that came out over 5 years ago. And part of that is that it's so much harder to identify the enemies at a distance. Again, some of these complaints could just be, obviously I'm not used to the game yet since I've only put in a handful of hours, so I can't as quickly react to a situation, whereas in Deep Rock, you know, once you've played it over 100 hours, you know exactly what to do when you see a wave of a certain mix of enemies, right? But just going off of gut feelings, it is just not that fun to shoot these enemies compared to Deep Rock. And that is a huge problem, given that is one of the only things that this game has to offer, since they gutted the exploration basically completely. Why the hell would you play this over Deep Rock Galactic? I can't even think of a single reason why you would, except this is the new thing, and we gotta play the new thing, guys. That other thing's old, okay? I don't want to miss out, guys. All my friends are playing the new thing. So, in conclusion, should you buy this? Fuck no. $30 is way too high an asking price for this. This is a glorified DLC. This is an asset flip, man. Look at it. It's just a shittier looking version of Deep Rock. To sum up the main complaints again, it is a co-op game where you're gonna hate your teammates. They're gonna fuck you over both on purpose and not on purpose. The game has very little replayability despite being a roguelike. Again, I don't know how you mess that up. That's the main appeal of this genre. It's somehow less fun than Deep Rock in almost every way. It has way less content than Deep Rock, which I know people excuse because it's early access, but really, why would you play this? The enemies are way less fun to shoot than Deep Rock. The arsenal of weapons is worse than Deep Rock. The player classes barely add anything interesting to the game. They're fairly unbalanced. Even though I did have fun with 2 of the classes, the other ones I tried I didn't really care for. The pacing is abysmal since you have to stop the game every 5 minutes to vote on perks and weapons and stuff. The time limit is abysmal. I mean, genuinely, there's so many things worth complaining about with this. I don't care that it's only in early access. Half these problems are never going to be fixed, let's be real. If the other half are, maybe it'll end up being an okay game, but I would much rather just have Deep Rock 2. And I think that's going to be everyone's takeaway from this. Once the recency bias wears off, everyone's just going to be like, okay, where's Deep Rock Galactic 2? That's the actual game I want to play. I don't want to play any more spin-off slop. Give me Deep Rock 2 now. You can really tell when I don't like the game when I'm barely talking about the woke elements, which are also its own problem and certainly a good reason to not buy the game. So yeah, just play Deep Rock Galactic with your buddies instead of this. And if you're tired of that game, play one of the hundreds, if not thousands, of other co-op slop games. Don't waste your time with this. That's about it. See you next time, guys.